Okay, you're now live. Okay, we're live now. Apparently, watch the stream. Nope, I click watch the stream, and okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, we're
Yeah,
live now. Apparently,
you
watch.
got it.
Mm-hmm. Nope. All right, we're good. All right, so I'm going to follow along with the questions as well, guys. Um, it goes without fail every time we do this, no matter what. There is a delay, or there's some sort of issue. We had to switch. Google doesn't do Hangouts on air anymore, so we're using a new thing and we're pushing it live to YouTube. But we're here now, so we're looking forward. It's been a while since we've done a live um, broadcast, and I know there's a lot of anticipation. I know there's a lot of um, you know a lot of people in the community want updates, and right now we're in some crazy times, and Um, I know you've personally dealt with, being in New Jersey, and being in that area, you're dealing with a lot of it, and you're kind of firsthand involved with coronavirus. So, I guess before we get too deep into Vericoin and Varium, um, do you want to, do you want to share anything with what you're dealing with right now in that regard, or?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's good to see Kevin. In Well, we haven't seen each other in person in a long time, and
Right.
now it's not going to happen for who knows when. But it's nice to see on people online anyway. Um, so yeah, Jersey is hit pretty hard. A lot of people commute to New York City, so there's a lot of infections basically that when New York City blew up, New Jersey blew up around the same time. Basically, New Jersey and New York shut down too late, like a week or two too late. And because the growth is exponential, because if you get infected, then based on the numbers from China and now even the numbers from the world, if you get infected, you on average infect two to three people, with no mitigation, no social distancing. Um, so it's exponential. So it's the number of people infected, at least squared, and then but you don't really know how many people are infected. Long story short is if you delay mitigation strategy by even a day, you can have 40% more cases 2 weeks later. So long story short is New Jersey, New York closed too late. So that's why the numbers blew up pretty big and pretty fast. And actually, my friend Tony Whalen passed away of COVID, which was complete shock, crazy scenario. Um, he, uh, he got sick and he drove him. He had trouble breathing. He drove himself to the hospital because you can't go with anybody, or
Yeah.
because you've got to be quarantined and stuff. And then 3 days later, he was in ICU, and then his fever got up to 104 point something, and he couldn't really breathe. And then when you have that much inability to get oxygen into your system, your organs start failing. And that's usually how people pass away. So that's basically what
Mm.
happened. And he was few years older than me, so it was a shock.
Yeah, yeah, obviously this is for in my lifetime, it's the biggest thing that our generation's dealt with, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not over yet. So, um, yeah, and then we'll get into, I know, a couple years ago, I had pneumonia, and you also know I've got some autoimmune issues and things, and so Doug reached out to me and told me to be extra careful. And if you don't, a lot of people in our community know about your background, what you do, and your main gig. And but maybe not everyone knows exactly what you do, and so your experience in this field, when you called me and told me, I really perked up. I'm like, okay, I got to treat this very serious. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about, or maybe we wait, in terms of maybe some of the things with your field of study and what you're doing to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can mention it, and it kind of ties in, hopefully, to the project
Okay.
ultimately. So I do. I'm getting my PhD in biophysics, and I do mostly computational. I do experiments as well, but I do a lot of computational stuff. I mean, I write code for biophysics research, and so what I've been doing since the lockdown, in addition to my normal research and the Vericoin stuff and Vericoin Varium project stuff, I also started working on designing an antiviral for COVID because there's a chance we could succeed in that, and it's needed. So, and pretty much everyone in the world who has some background in it is trying to do something. So I've computationally designed some antivirals that we're going to start collaborating with experimental research groups that are currently set up in the lockdown phase to actually do COVID-19 experiments, because Rutgers is where I do research. Rutgers is shut down. The labs are shut down. But there's still some universities that are open, and then there's also some universities that are open for COVID specific stuff. So we kind of have to orchestrate through our research network to try and get experiments done in a certain way. But hopefully, the hope is that sitting on my computer is already an effective antiviral that I used. This program that I've been working on for years. I've been developing it since about 2010, let's say, about 10 years. It's a machine learning algorithm that does simulated evolution of proteins. So it's sort of like, the simple way to explain it is, I'm trying to out evolve the virus on my computer, and then prevent the virus from binding human cells. So I'm trying to design a protein that inhibits the virus from entering a human cell, and I'm doing simulated evolution of the protein binding the viral protein to get a protein that beats the virus at what it ultimately does to infect a human host. And I also, I'll just briefly mention this as well. I mentioned in the chat that ultimately what I'd like to do once we have the binary chain infrastructure in place is take my machine learning algorithm. It's written in C. It actually has a rudimentary Qt user interface as well. So I could take that rudimentary user interface and make it a tab in wouldn't be a wallet. It would be like a binary chain, like sort of like a Vereconomy application. We could have an application, a science-based application that lives in the binary chain, and does this kind of stuff. Could be protein folding predictions. Like, I don't know if people have heard about it, but Google last year won the protein folding competition using machine learning algorithms. And we can also do drug design and all kinds of stuff. And one of the things, like there's also folding at home, which is like a protein folding algorithm people can run on their PS4s. There's two problems with these general approaches that I think the binary chain is a good infrastructure for. One is, first of all, it's completely voluntary. There's no benefit besides you just being a good Samaritan or whatever to running the CPU time, and cryptocurrency, and R coins and the technology in general enables people to have a way to earn value for their computational time directly. So we can have a scientific competition with rewards, potentially. How exactly that would be implemented would have to be figured out, but it's certainly possible. Rather than mining a block, you could mine for a drug. You could use your computational time to try and design a drug. And one cool idea that I had, that I'd have to talk with like a lawyer to actually figure out if how much this makes sense, but these are the kind of things that would be really cool. Is if your node actually designs the sequence that results in a drug, a peptide drug, like a biologic or a small molecule or whatever it is, then and you have a key associated with that solution, because you basically it'll be associated with a private key of yours, then you could actually have patent ownership of that drug. So we could potentially have a system where people have a completely decentralized inventor model for drugs, let's say. So one possibility is you have rewards. Another possibility is if your computer happens to be the one that actually invents a drug that goes to market, you actually have inventorship rights that you can prove with a key, which would be pretty awesome.
How much of that is like based on like a continual improvement? I mean, is it like with right now with hashing, it's a completely random number and it's fully random. How
Yeah.
much of it is building upon the previous work? In other words, where maybe my computer found the solution, but it's leveraged a lot of the effort prior.
So, so I actually have a good answer for that.
Okay.
Let me see if I can
And
bring
while
up.
you're thinking, just someone made a comment that there's echo when I'm talking. I don't know if that's. Um, oh, it says okay. I got it. I got. They're right. I'm gonna hit a button. We'll see if we fix this. And because it should be better now. There were two mic applications running here on my thing, so I think we're good. If
So
you
I'm gonna.
guys can confirm that, that would be awesome because I know it's annoying when there's crappy audio when you're trying to watch a video.
So I'm gonna share a screen. Can you guys see this?
Here, I can add it. One moment. Um, we're on a brand new thing, guys. So just
Sorry,
it's
I'm
it's
throwing.
definitely cooler than. There we go. Um, and I'll try to make that bigger if I can. So there's a screen. Yeah, we see. I don't know if you can see it or not on the.
I don't see it. Oh wait, let me see. Okay, so you think that's live?
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
All right, so to Kevin's point, this is like the on the y. I'll try and make this brief, but this is an example of the simulated evolution process, where on the x-axis is the independent ancestries of evolution that took place on a antiviral drug, and on the y-axis is the energy of that. So basically, how effective that antiviral drug is at binding its target. And the green line is kind of like it's actually the target range of energy that we want to be below to be competitive with the virus. So you can see that basically it is actually exceptionally dependent on the previous steps, because what happens is the machine learning learns what a better target is, like how to design a better target. It basically weights the statistics um, based on results from previous cycles, and so it that's why that whole the all those blue dots are independent designs, and they all drop in energy as the algorithm learns, how to more effectively bind the target. So that is a good point, and that's one of the reasons why we'd have to talk to a lawyer about how to actually implement this kind of idea. Because on the one hand, you get one of these really low energy negative ones. You got really lucky. You hit one that might actually be an effective antiviral. But on the other hand, it was kind of standing on the shoulders of all the previous designs that took place in the previous thousands that were generated by other threads or nodes in this case. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting point that you brought up. I'm going to stop sharing that now.
No problem. All right. So yeah, okay. Apparently, every time something's added here, I've got to refresh the live streams. We're still good. It's just I've got to
Play
basically
with stuff.
reset what we're doing. So they didn't see the
Okay.
slide for the first few minutes or first few seconds. I don't know however
I
long.
saw it pop up on my little preview at some point, and I
Yeah,
think
it did. I missed it.
that's
Again, we're dealing with something brand new. It is much better than Google Hangouts,
so far it's better actually.
but I got an issue with my mic and still working on the slides. Okay, so yeah, that's fascinating to me, and I think it opens up a lot of potential opportunity. And I think once you get some of that scientific aspect involved, it could open up some doors in terms of one of the weaknesses with this project is, we are, um, it's the limitation. It's the fact that it's decentralized.
Hmm.
Um, it's let's say what it is. I mean, it's basically it's based on community 100%,
Yeah.
and it's decentralized, and that's one of the things that I find it. I've always found it appealing, but it's also one of the things that makes it difficult for that fast progress.
Hmm.
But you look at a lot of projects that just aren't around at all anymore. I mean,
Oh,
so yeah, you make and the arguments are valid about everything's taking a really long time, but on the other
yeah.
hand, it's it's based on the more people that can contribute, the faster things are going to get done. But the reality is the project's still alive, and I was in a conversation with somebody in the community the other day, and I just made a general comment that since my involvement, I first got involved in 2014, just as somebody who was interested in crypto. And I was interested in crypto because I was denied business ideas that I wanted to do because I couldn't get credit card approval. And I was like, God, there's got to be another way. And then I found Bitcoin. And then shortly after, I found Vericoin. But I've been actively involved in the community since 2016. And since that time, there are waves. There's waves of excitement. There's waves of progress. There's waves of a rush of new people coming in, and then it kind of falls back. My feeling right now is the community we've had many more people than we have, but it's not terrible. I mean, it's been me and you've seen it worse or slower than this, but it's not the quantity. I think the people in the community now are much more passionate, and I also feel, and this is one of the things I hope we can talk about tonight and maybe try to address. It feels that there's a lot more talent
Hmm.
that's able to produce. Where I see the gap is a lot of people aren't quite sure exactly what to do or how to get involved. So I'm hoping that just airing this out and saying it can maybe take provide some steps in that direction so we as a community can solve it, because again it's not there needs to be some level of leadership,
Hmm.
and I don't think that's ever really truly been defined in terms of like, oh, like, every project you look at and go, okay, that's the face and that's the leader of the project. But a lot of those projects also, a lot of those people, that's their job. I mean, that is their livelihood. That's their, beyond their livelihood. That's their reputation. They're going to go to their grave and that's what they're going to be remembered as.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, if things go as we hope, you're doing some amazing things in the science field. I mean, truly. But same thing, you could be known very well because of this project.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't hit that level yet where you're being talked about in media and magazines. But I guess where I'm going with it is I just feel like we've got um, we're not far away. We need some cohesiveness to an organizational structure,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that the people who want to contribute have a more crystallized idea of what they can do and how they can best help.
Yeah.
And maybe if someone is in the community listening to this that has like, and I know Will's stepped up a lot, and Will's helped quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
on trying to manage some things and
Yeah.
trying to facilitate and communicating with whatever the communication aspects need within the community. But if somebody in the community is like really strong with like project management, like please let us know. Like we need somebody that can really try to help pull some things together and organize it. And do you agree with that? And
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Um, so what I've been trying to do, and not very successfully, I'll admit, is transition from someone who essentially just burnt the midnight oil developing cryptocurrency to someone who is helping to build the development infrastructure of the project, for a couple of reasons. One is, um, as my scientific career, moves forward, it becomes more and more difficult to burn the midnight oil on cryptocurrency development. But at the same time, one of the reasons why I'm motivated to bring scientific applications into the binary chain is so that I can actually unite the two sides of my interests, um, for my own reasons, not only because it would be helpful to people, innovation, science, but also for my own personal reasons. I don't have to have, I'm spending time here or I'm spending time there. And if I spend time here, it takes away from there. And if I spend time there, it takes away from here. Um, so if I can use the binary chain infrastructure to ultimately write grants and get scientific applications on it funded through my academic career, which I decided I'm definitely going for, then that would keep me from having to have this sort of
Hmm.
split interest.
Right.
Um, and so at the same time, I've been trying to transition from someone who just goes and digs into something on their own, despite the challenges, despite the market, whatever's going on, and just does, some tries to carve out some new methodology, to trying to be someone who inspires people to do it themselves. So one of the things is, that I've realized with this project, because we've had a bunch of different developers over the years contribute, and some people are very effective developers. They really know how to program well, but what they really struggle with often is figuring out how to do something new. So meaning like not just this cryptocurrency development, when you're really doing it, is not just programming. It's coming up with how something that's never been done before is implemented. That's actually what I'm kind of good at. I'm kind of good at figuring out how to implement something that's never been done before in that particular way. What I'm weaker at is then engineering out all the details afterwards. That's not my strength. I basically get bored at that point and want to move on to something else.
Right. No, and my with me and with my internet marketing firm, same thing. It's kind of like I get this passion to create a strategy. We start it, and I see the success. Okay, it's working, and at that point, it's like, okay, I proved it works, and you still want to maintain it and manage
Yeah,
it and all
yeah,
that. But really, now I want to solve the next problem. Like I want to
kind of
find the
thing.
next solution to solve.
And that's
Um,
just like how my brain works too.
mhm.
I mean, at the same time I need to like be more, more execution oriented in some ways. But at the same time, like I also want to leverage my strengths. So
Well,
so,
this is
so
where I think the goal would be for you still to be the visionary, the leader, the one kind of connecting these dots. I mean, you've got to. It's uncanny what you're able to do, but you need that help to
yeah, to
actually get
implement.
the execution. And so
Yeah.
that's where I think.
So this is where, just to follow up on that point, this is where I've been struggling and where the community can understand where I'm coming from is um, the challenge is not just being able to program. The real challenge is figuring out what to do. So like I can show you the ropes. First of all, I've showed a lot of people the ropes, and most of them unfortunately ended up moving on to other stuff. And so I have to gauge the degree of commitment that I think someone might have before I spend time showing them the ropes. But I can show a committed person the ropes. But at the end of the day, the how to do new things is not figured out yet. So
Yeah.
I have ideas. We've had ideas that we've found the way to do it. We've found the solution and we've coded it. When you actually go through the process of coding something that's not been done before, the real challenge is figuring out exactly how it can be implemented and how it can be implemented in a way where all of the requirements are met. The game theory requirements in the case of cryptocurrency, the security requirements, the coding requirements. Is it going to run efficiently? Is it secure? Is it in the right language? Does it integrate with the existing code base properly? All these things need to be figured out. So what I've been trying to do is is sort of like bring people into the project, show them the ropes, and then they figure it out. Because otherwise, I'm still doing the main uh, exhaustive task, which is figuring out the nitty gritty details. And what I've found is that despite how good of a programmer we might get, they will effectively find a solution to a known problem, but they may not come up with a solution to an unknown problem. And this is really what we need more than anything is, and I can definitely help guide that, and I will still be developing these solutions, but we need more people who can actually take the ball and go down the court.
Okay.
And I don't mean take the ball and go down the court in a way that's been done before. I mean go down the court and shoot a new kind of shot.
But the things that we've already had on, say, call I don't say the roadmap, but the things that we have that are, like, say, binary chain, for example. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
getting that done right now. What's needed to get? I mean, I guess what's needed to get that complete? Because I think that's the biggest question that everyone has. And I've always said I don't think that we should put it's what differentiates the project from anything else. But I also think that we need to think about everything holistically as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, okay, binary chain, it's there, and next thing we're solving the world's cryptocurrency. I mean, we know what it can do, but I guess what I'm getting at is you can have the best technology, but you still need a good community. You still need applications on top of it. You still need use cases.
Mm-hmm.
If you have, um, if you have the technology, but not everything that needs to go with it, I still think we're going to have some, work to do and a lot of angles. So it's not just the technical aspect of it, but on that question though, with the technical, what is needed, and so like maybe
Okay,
more.
so like some of the nitty gritty details of
Yeah.
what we need to do next that the community can help with, and we can try to organize this on the Trello as was suggested. Is we really need the Varium code base is done. The user interface is a port of the old one, which is fine for now. But we basically need people to build, compile, and test the user interface just preliminarily on all the operating systems. So anyone who can compile the user interface and thinks they can take that on by following the documentation. Maybe for instance, every Linux system you have to tweak, the documentation to get a compile actually going. You have to do some modifications usually, but if you can compile the user interface for the Varium code base on branch 0.16, which is the Varium core as we're calling it, like the Bitcoin version of Varium, updated Bitcoin core code base version of Varium. We need people who are able and willing to compile the user interface version of the wallet, the headless version, the terminal version, the node version, the server version, however you want to call it. That's been thoroughly tested by me, Fighton, and others for months, and we haven't found issues. Nothing significant. No real issues. What we really need is people who can compile the user interface to compile it on their native operating system that they're comfortable with. Windows, Mac, Linux. We need all three. And we need people to mess with it, test it, try and see what features might be missing from the old wallet and what new features we might need because of the changes in the code base. One thing that I know we need, right off the top of my head, that I can mention here, if there's anyone interested in doing some front end development, this is a case where you don't actually have to reinvent the wheel. There's people who have done this. We need, and we have talked to Kevin about this. We need a window like many modern cryptocurrency wallets have that pops up when you first open a new wallet and gives you your 15-word mnemonic seed to back up, and then bases all your private keys off of that from that point forward. We need a user interface walkthrough for that. That I think, in my mind, that's the user interface thing for the core version of both wallets that hasn't been implemented that is needed.
Okay.
Other than that, it's like aesthetics. We could put a different skin on it. We could make it easier to use, things like that. But that's an essential user interface feature that hasn't been completed yet. I think is essential. So we need someone to implement that if they can, and then we need also people just to build on Mac, on Windows, on Linux, the user interface and play with it, test it, send a little bit of coins. Make sure that we've tested the back end wallet. We know that it's secure. We know that it's safe. We know that it works. The only possible issues are whether your balance is like displaying correctly on the screen, in terms of the user interface. We're not worried about people losing coins right now on this version of the wallet. That's why we've been testing it for months to make sure people are not going to lose coins. So if you see issues in the user interface, it's more than likely just user interface issues, not actual wallet issues. So we need to kind of have more than one or two people building and testing that for different operating systems if we can. So that's one. Those are like some right now tasks that people can do that isn't really, it's mostly a user task. If you can compile the wallet, which a lot of people can, even if they're not developers, then because you pretty much follow the compilation documentation, it's not too bad. It's easier than it used to be, and much easier actually. Um, and then just kind of test the wallet out, the new 0.16. That's one thing. The one thing that I don't think anyone else is going to do it as efficiently. So it's something that I'm probably going to have to do myself, just because it'll save the most time. Is bring pre-OST into the Varium wallet basically, and then we change the parameters and it becomes the Vericoin wallet. We change the skin, we change the parameters to Vericoin, and it becomes the Vericoin core wallet. But bringing POS into the new Varium core wallet is something that needs to be done. That
Okay.
can be done in parallel while the auxiliary. Now, if you want to do backend development, a back-end development project that I'm talking to Ghost in the community about doing. He expressed some interest. He's struggling a bit, I think. Maybe there's others that are interested in helping is implement the auxiliary mining component of the binary chain. So in my mind, I'm bringing my fingers into the view here. In my mind, the binary chain is we're at the end of the beginning of the binary chain when auxiliary mining is implemented, and the current Varium core wallet and the soon to be Vericoin core wallet are completed and have that auxiliary mining feature in them. It's not that much stuff left, but it's that those are the tasks. Then after that, there's all kinds of user interface stuff we can do to merge to create the Gemini wallet. We will need front end people to help with that task, because that's actually a huge user interface undertaking. Not necessarily in terms of development. It's more so the development's going to be deleting stuff where there's redundancy. The real task for the Gemini wallet, excuse me, is going to be figuring out how you have and looking at other wallets and figuring out
Mhm.
how you have two coins
Mhm.
with one simple user interface. That.
Well, I think we've already. I mean, we put some ideas down
Yeah.
that I liked, which would be a basically like a tabbed view,
Mm-hmm.
and it'd be important that the color scheme would obviously change. So I know based on you know by my view, I'm in Vericoin or I'm in the Varium side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more complex than that, but to me, utilizing that aspect is one way to
Yeah,
really, you
that
know,
would be probably trivial to implement as well.
sure, yeah. But I now once you have auxiliary mining in place,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, that's the foundation. It's the start of what binary chain can do, because really the strength is then all the applications you can put on top.
Mm-hmm.
But once auxiliary mining's in place, binary chain, as far as how we've defined it,
Has
it's
begun.
it's essentially done, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's been launched basically at
okay.
that point.
Okay. So, we don't want to put dates on things. You've kind of laid out what has to happen specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned, you know, what we. I guess if for the community to try to recruit or maybe someone's listening to this and learning about the project for the first time and they want to get involved, what would you say the like prerequisites or the core attributes would be, like from a technical level? Like,
Mm-hmm.
they need to know like C sharp, they need to know, experience with certain things, just so we can kind of like narrow that field of exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, so the whole wallet, from the user interface to the back end, is all in C++, basically. the modern version of C. So if you have C programming, C++ programming, if you have C sharp experience, it's applicable. It's not exactly the same, but it's basically the same. But any flavor, any version of C experience, programming experience that you have is applicable. Um, and you could go, right into doing development, and then you could prefer front end or you could prefer back end development from there. There also for the user interface, there is XML. Like you can write like a, a significant proportion of the user interface is in C, but then the actual user interface itself is basically in like let's say the under the hood part of the user interface is in C++ and Qt in particular, like Qt's libraries for user
Mhm.
interface. But then the actual user interface itself is in XML. So if you have XML experience, you could also help with the user interface. Um, but yeah, I'm a person. I don't exclude anyone from being able to do programming because I'm a person who learned programming for science and never took a programming class until after learning how to program, because I wanted to learn more about how things are supposed to be done as opposed to how I figured it out or whatever. So I don't exclude anyone. I was someone who always thought technical stuff and computers were really cool and interesting, and never did any programming. And and then I got into research, and my advisor was like, "You could also do this computational." I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll try this." And then I just kind of got hooked on it, and I got really into it. And then you just learn it over time. So I wouldn't exclude anyone, but at the same time, it's not like people have tons of time to show you how to do programming. You got to kind of figure it out on your own for the most part. Um, we don't have people teaching people
Right.
full
And
time.
I think that's important. There's this fine line because we you want all the help you can get, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and to me, I think it's important. Like a strong community is one that's engaged.
Mm-hmm.
When people want to help, it's like whatever they can do, anything.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, me personally, because I want to see this project really successful. I at the same time, I don't want you to be spending your limited time trying to train somebody that could maybe, you know,
May or may not stick around. Kind
yeah, exactly, which we've seen. So there needs to be this level of, and this is where I say a project manager that can really try to maybe pull things together and get the most out of like each person's talents.
of. Mm-hmm.
And I'll do whatever I can to help in that regard. But
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say I'm not a strong project manager myself. I'm very much like you in a lot of ways, and
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. So I guess I there's some questions you want you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you
Let's do the question. That'll help. That'll help ground this discussion too.
yeah. Um, so some of this we kind of touched on, but let's start with the specifics here. This is from Daniel, and it's kind of long, but he wants to know what the progress is of the newly written white paper,
Mm-hmm.
and then also both core updates, which I think you kind of just said exactly like what those final pieces are on that end.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So I have a few of the new figures for the paper done, and almost done, I'll say. And then the outline one that I sent around with the kind of overview, that one's pretty much done, I think, for instance. And then I have a pretty rough draft that's missing some pieces of the binary chain white paper that I want to finish up. And then once I have like a completed draft, not like a polished. I mean, I'm not writing shit sentences, but like a completed, pretty good draft. I'll share that with in a channel.
okay.
Maybe there's one that already exists, for anyone who wants to help edit, and anyone who does significant editing of the binary chain white paper. You like we did last time with the post paper. I'll put you as an author, and you can put that on your CV and stuff. And it's I mean, it probably in 5 years it might actually mean a lot. If you have if you're on a blockchain based white paper, I mean, even now it's kind of considered elite skill set or something. But but if you want to take us, so if you are not technical, but you have the ability to edit a somewhat technical writing. You're not a programmer. You don't want to learn how to program, but you can edit writing that's a little technical. That also you can help with. Like I said, once I have a completed good draft, like a draft that I'm happy with, I'll share it in the Slack, and people can contribute editing to that. And if you do a significant amount of editing, then you can become like an author of the paper. And we're going to try and publish this paper as well in a journal, in a peer-reviewed journal. We'll probably have two versions. One like the scientific published peer-reviewed version formatted for the journal, and then we'll have like our own internal formatting for like our white paper, like we have with Post, with our own kind of logos on it and stuff. So it'll be the same text but just formatted differently. So if you're interested in participating in a scientific writing, we can get a group of people together that can help with that, and if you contribute significantly, you can be an author on that, and we'll try and get it peer reviewed. And I also want to get this binary chain paper peer reviewed so that if I am able, that my goal is to bridge cryptocurrency and my scientific background. If I'm successful in that, then that paper will actually be a central part of that. It'll not only will I have experience in development of blockchain technology, but I'll also have we'll be able to say we have this peer-reviewed publication about our technology, and so on. And the academic field needs to see peer-reviewed work. So that's an important part upcoming as well. But in my mind, the good draft isn't quite there yet.
Okay. A lot of the questions, I think, I'm just going to read through them just out of curiosity or courtesy. Um, just I want to acknowledge everyone that submitted a question.
Yeah. Go. I'll try and
So
keep
some of these we've touched on. So if we've already touched on them, we can kind of we can pass by it. But so okay, so Daniel had asked about the white paper, both core updates, which we touched on. But this part, the mining varium transaction fees from 0.4 to 0.2. Actually, it is
Yeah,
0.2.
that's an outdated. That's not the current plan that Fighton and HD4R worked out.
Okay.
And I don't know the status of that. I expect it hasn't really been implemented. I kind of left that with Fighton and HD4R to work on. I haven't heard in a while about that. I expect it probably hasn't been implemented yet. Um, but there is a plan, a detailed plan on what exactly to do that's worked out. It just has to be coded. If you're interested in coding that, you can contact on the Slack. I'm sure HD4R would be willing to discuss that with you or fighting.
Okay. See, next one is Andy K. Wants to talk about the future of Aircoin Varium, and then but in the next months and better ways to inform, update the community on more channels. So website, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, and I agree. And some of that I should be able to do a better job on and handling, especially the website. The website needs to be updated. There's a lot of stuff that just is outdated now. Some exchanges that are still listed that aren't relevant anymore or don't exist. And then just So yeah, the website needs to be updated. That information needs to be checked, and then
Is there a
Reddit.
way to have the website edited by more than just you as well?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There are. I mean, again, this goes back to one of the things we talked about earlier. Over the years, there's a number of people that have been given access to certain things because
Yeah.
I don't. I've always said for a number of reasons. When I got sick uh, in 2018, there was that realization, like, man, this like it needs like the whole idea is that there needs to be a a marketing committee, a group, a panel of 10, 12 people that all work together and have some level of equal, so even like the access to the YouTube channel,
Hmm.
I don't it doesn't need to be me doing the hangout. It doesn't need to be, because if it's always me doing it, then it's like, oh, he's the official. I'm not. I'm a community member like anyone else. But what makes it easy for me to do is I've done it already. I've got a history of doing it, and I have access. I'm one of the ones that has, I can log into the YouTube account or link to it. So we need to do a better job of kind of distributing that stuff. And I've tried, I really have. But what you have to realize is a lot of people end up leaving.
Yeah.
And then you got to be careful because if someone leaves and they're salty and they have access to the Twitter account
Yeah.
or whatever, it could be dangerous. So there's that fine line of keeping things open,
Yeah.
but that's realistically why I don't like official channels. Quite honestly, I don't.
Yeah. It's like this is like the kind of the I would say like the gift and the curse of being like I said in the Slack, like um, you know, people are usually overestimating like what I'm actually capable of executing, and like I said, even myself, like I think it's going to take some 5 hours, and it actually takes like 45 hours or something, to do something. But
You know why? Because you've had those days where you're able to get 45 hours done in five.
yeah, yeah, right,
You're just on a roll and you're crushing it, and
yeah,
you think, okay, I'm gonna on Saturday, I'm gonna like
bang it
just
out, yeah,
nail it,
yeah,
and it doesn't work that way.
yeah. And so like I mean I think people and myself also have like um, have you know high extra, what is the word, overly high expectations of what I'll be able to execute sometimes, but then at the same time have uh, under anticipate what my commitment level is. Like I said,
Yeah,
like on the Slack, if both coins were delisted and at zero value or even negative value because you're mining and staking and you can't ever do anything with it, and, that's basically negative value. I would still actually be working on this project one way or another. I mean, it would have a different form, I guess, ultimately. But so my commitment level is there. I mean, you can, if you question it, you can just look at how long I've been part of the project. But at the same time, I feel like it's a crush for people as well, because people can just be like, well, when's Doug going to get this thing done? Or people can just be like, or when's Doug going to like manage people properly? Or when's Doug? But what I really want, like, forget who said it now. I should say the right person's name if I can see it real quick.
somebody in crypto space
Yeah,
or
yeah. In the Slack, who
oh,
was it? Dennis Vanderpool. He was like, "I'm glad you didn't leave because it would collapse, in my opinion, if you would." And like that concerns me because, I mean, on the one hand, it's like, okay, he thinks I'm valuable to the project, which is nice, but on the other hand, you know, that means it's all on me.
well, and aside from that, I mean, we got to
It's
be realistic. You don't ever want, like, okay, with me with my business, I'll say it this way: if sometimes a client will say, buy the domain name for me or whatever. I'm like, that's the company asset. I need to make sure I transfer that to you because if something happens to me,
Hmm.
like you don't want to have it. You need to have,
Especially
and
for
so
a
in this regard, I mean, the project's not in good shape if you left and everyone felt like, oh, it's over.
yeah,
Like that's not decentralized project.
right,
That's not.
right.
So
The
that's one of the
technology might be, but the project itself isn't.
well, again, and you are instrumental. I mean, there's no doubt about. I mean, you are the head of the whole thing. I mean, it's your vision, and so
Yeah.
um, But on the other hand, we've got to get it to the point where um, no matter what, it would suck. Yeah, if you left,
I
but
mean, here's the other thing that we've always struggled with, which I'm hoping the academic route might be part of a solution to this, is if if this was a company and I was running it, I would
Mhm.
just hire people to do, and I would tell them to implement, and I would say, figure it out, and they would just do it because if they don't do it, they're not going to get a paycheck.
Right, exactly,
And, but
right.
I can't do that because people are doing things on their spare time. I mean, I can tell people to figure it out, but that might just piss them off, and then they just like are like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna just walk away because I'm not getting anything anyway,
Yeah,
effectively.
no, exactly. And
So the problem is like, so then it's really like, how do I inspire people to take the lead on stuff without revenue, without a revenue stream?
well, I was trying to pay attention to the YouTube um, chat as well. I mean, this is we're getting close to an hour. We don't do 5 minute videos. Everything we do takes a long time. But I was reading in one of the comments was along those lines. So how do we bring in, how do we recruit? Like the concept of the project is groundbreaking. There's a lot of potential with it. So how do we bring in? Why are we not getting maybe some talented developers to come to the project and get involved? I think part of it is a lot of other projects became corporatized. They have bankrolls, they have
Yeah.
money. And so by nature, you're going to go where the candy's at, where you're going to be getting paid. Also reputation,
Hmm.
let's face it, we're not a top 20 project with
Right.
the name that's recognizable. So
Yeah.
you're going to go, and so there's such a limited amount of people who have the skill set to do this in the first place,
Yeah.
to do it well, rather.
Right.
There's a lot of people doing it, and look, they're not around anymore, right? These were just shit projects.
Hmm.
But true quality performers, they're hard to find.
Hmm.
If you are proven to be a good performer, you've been sucked up by a project that's got money, and that's not what we are. So what we have to do is we have to or motivate through inspiration. And I think the way to do that, and this is where, again, if you're not too familiar with the project, we had a run. I was brought in to help with marketing and do some things, and it was a short contract. I stayed after that contract was
It's
over
been a little while now, I guess.
a while, and I'm not getting, I don't get paid anything. It was a one-time contract essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and I've done a lot after all those videos, all those professional videos that you saw on YouTube. Um, we did pay, like, okay, so we brought in a videographer that I knew, and he helped with some of those things.
Yeah.
But um, you know, the, where I'm going with this is this: I'm still doing stuff now, what I can when I can, and I'm doing it out of passion. Okay, I got brought into the project, and now I'm like, oh, I love what it stands for. I love what it's about. The guy that helped with the videos, we paid him a little bit. He fell in love with the project. He now owns a lot of Vericoin and Varium. He's coming back to me saying, hey, what can I do now to help. And so this is where I think we need to come back and say we need to hit a home run with showing people what the world could look like with binary chain activated with applications on top of it, and show what these solutions could be and what the world could maybe look like.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to inspire and motivate people on that, not on, oh, it's 2.5 cents today and it might be $2 in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then 20, like, if it's about money, if we're going to try to motivate people through money, we're never going to attract talent
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have it right now.
Right. Right.
So we have to attract people based on the principles and the vision and the fact that it is truly decentralized.
Mm-hmm.
And those principles of what this project stands for is the only way we're going to attract people that really like believe in what it's about, and they're going to contribute because of their beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
not because of money.
Yeah.
So that answer, I mean, that question that I saw, that answers it. It's not easy to do that, but ultimately that's what it's going to be. There's no other way,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, I also have this. I mean, I think that's what we do. And then I also have this long term plan of trying to bridge in an academic research program into the project if possible. There's a lot of
mhm,
contingencies. You know, it would require grant funding for scientific projects related, you know, that utilize the binary chain. There's a lot of dependencies on that plan. But that's something I'm also working on to try and bring more infrastructure into the project. It
yeah,
may or may not happen, but it's something that I would like to do. But we can't depend on something that's not actually happening right now. So I think what Kevin said is the key for right now. And I think also, like I was saying before, it can't. I don't have time to show people what to do because it would take me 10 times less time to just do it. And just doing certain things, I don't have time for. So, what I need is people who I can basically show the ropes and then they figure out the rest. You know, that's like what, to me, that's the developer skills that we need. Is not, I can program, okay, what do I do? It's, I may or may not be able to program, but I can figure out what needs to be done. That's the kind of the distinction. So if I think that you can figure it out, you know, I'm gonna be willing to commit more of my time to help you get there. If I think you're gonna be asking me what to do every step of the way, then I'm gonna probably decide that I don't have time to do that because if I did, I would just do it myself with a lot less time. And the only reason I say it like that is because there's been a lot of people, there's been a couple, handful of people who I've committed a bunch of time to, and they really pushed through and led on a number of tasks. And then
mhm,
ultimately ended up departing the project for one reason or another. Usually it's financial, you know, or whatever. Nothing is not, it's usually not personal. Um, and then but vast majority of people that have kind of like got started just didn't end up ever implementing anything or realize that it's over their head, gave up on it, whatever it is. Again, not a
mhm.
personal thing, but at the same time, I can't just hold every person who wants to help's hand. We need people who will figure stuff out on their own. Like they need to be shown the code page or an example, or you know they need to be shown where in the code it is or whatever it is, and then they figure out the solution. That's what we need. Without that, everything is um, is just dependent on my two hands, my number of hours available, and me trying to introduce people and then things kind of fading out, you know,
Yeah.
on
And
their own.
too, when what you're referencing on that development help need is one side of things, right? Then there's like there are people in the community. Culty Boy's one. Like he's gonna like in terms of spreading the word, he probably works harder than anybody in trying to get the message out,
Yeah.
right? So that's another aspect. Like I
Yeah.
said, you can have all the technology right, but you
The
need other
communication.
angles,
Yeah.
and even like the third party apps. That's like all the ideas. Like I've got ideas that I would love to implement with Vericoin, especially because of the low cost transactions and things.
Hmm.
These are like fun ideas. These aren't like business ideas, but they're just things to show like, hey, we and they do solve a problem.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't look at it as okay, I want to do this and make a ton of money. I want to do it because I can, and the technology exists to do something that wasn't necessarily practical before.
Hmm.
And I want to see it in the real world. I want to like take those steps, but I don't have the technical ability myself. It doesn't mean that I need someone like you to do it. And I'm talking about things as of today. Like Vericoin as of today, I can send a, you know, 7 cent transaction. I can send 3 Vericoin to somebody and it's practical to do, right? And you can do that today. Or what are the applications on why I would want to send somebody 7 cents or 20 cents or whatever? Um, and I'll share this with the community. I don't want to drag this on too much longer, but the point is there are things that can be done that are not core development, but still, ideas that can be built on top of this. So
Hmm.
I think the key is everyone can contribute in one manner or another, whether it's the technical writing, the marketing, the just trying to break it, installing it,
Hmm.
and someone asked and said on YouTube too. You need sometimes I don't say dumb people, but you need people who aren't technically savvy to open up the wallet and go, "This is confusing as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Figure it
Sure.
out." We need as much contributions as possible. So on that note, I think we should probably end this. And you know, it, I want to do more of these. I would love to do them more frequently. Um, and they don't always have to be with you. I know, like I said, some people are developing some other things
Hmm.
in the community.
Hmm.
Someone's developing a store that is going to be to sell um, like pre-made mining units,
Hmm.
and they're going to sell those strictly with Varium. So you need to like buy the Varium off the exchange to then buy the unit to mine the Varium. So there's some interesting things that people are working on,
Hmm.
and I need to do a better job of maybe highlighting some of those things as well. And then again, that goes back to the website. Um, but I will say this: I don't like me personally. I don't like talking about stuff that is supposed to happen
Hmm.
and it never does because we ran through
You,
that with things in the past, and even to some extent even now still, that I don't like to talk about stuff that is supposed to happen soon. I like to give updates in the community like we're doing right now, but how many of fiat to Vericoin offers did we have in like 2018? There were like 3 or 4. Like, oh, in like a month you're going to be able to buy Vericoin with fiat, and none of them ever happened. And so my whole thing was I'm not going to say anything else. When it happens, then I'll talk about it. So people who say like, oh, we need to do more updates, I agree, but I want them to be substantial update, like things to really talk about versus and again, this is me. That's my opinion.
hmm.
I'm not the only one that can talk about stuff. So I mean, and if you want to contribute and you want to be more involved in like the dispersion of updates and things like that, and you need help, you need access, reach out to me and I'll do what I can. I mean, I really want as many people involved in this as possible. So,
Hmm.
okay, well, I appreciate your time, and if there were things that we didn't cover,
Did we
or
get
maybe
through most of the questions?
Did I? Yeah, for the most part, I'll just read off the names of the people who submitted, though. Daniel, who we covered his list of things. Andy K. Um, M. Durasi, I'm not sure. He just wanted to know about some. He wanted to talk a little bit about third-party apps and if we think we could put some of those things on GitHub, if they're open source, that could mean more commits on the account. Or should we find a way to centralize everything that are built around Vericoin Varium? Colty Boy wanted to know ETA of Gemini desktop wallet, mobile Vericoin wallet, and binary chain. Varium Fellow, what's your vision for the future of Varium and Vericoin? What will make it unique? Um, and Sit Down wanted to know about the core update and finalizing it, and about setting it. He basically asked about setting up a task force to finish development
Mm-hmm.
testing with all the help we might provide. So we touched on that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Letio Gars, again, if I'm chopping up these names, I'm sorry. Uh, he wanted to talk about the date you think binary chain will be efficient once it's launched or what. And then the first question, the Daniel Medeiros. Here, I'm gonna do something kind of cool. Like, look, there's his question. See that? I had that all like ready to go. Oh no, you don't see it. Hold on. Now you see that little streaming question down at the bottom.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah. So I was gonna have all the questions streaming, and then like after we answered it, go to the next
Bing,
one.
bing.
The next time we'll do it better, guys. And
Okay, so
we're
let me.
I think we need to try to keep these shorter. Try to
I
get.
could just try and answer these real quick and uh, let's see. I mean, again, like it's a decentralized project. So regarding Daniel's question, I personally am not a big fan of multi-algorithm because I actually think that we have really good algorithm for one CPU, one vote, and we spend a lot of time figuring that out. And honestly, if you have multi-algorithm, it's just more vectors of attack. Like if you can crack one of them, or one of them has a flaw in the implementation, or whatever it is, then
Yeah.
you can potentially manipulate the system. So I'd rather have one that works very well and is a balance of everything, which I think we have. And then we don't talk about dates because everything's dependent on a voluntary basis. Um, we definitely sit it down is right. We need to, and HD4R has mentioned this. We need to put some tasks on the Trello board, and kind of the things that I verbally said here are should go on there. And we can get into more detail. We gave an update on the ETAs, the white papers.
I'm getting okay. I was getting and attempting to reconnect, so we might have lost for a second. We're back on though.
Okay, okay. And then the vision I kind of already laid out in the beginning. The kind of applications that we could do. One of the things that I haven't touched on in oh, maybe I did in one of the Hangouts that I can just briefly mention is I mean, in my opinion, for the binary chain, the unique prospects are that we can have a integrated system where we have an off-chain database and an on-chain database, where it's not separated by multiple networks. I mean, technically, it is two networks, but like for instance, Lightning and the Bitcoin network, they're two completely separate networks. A network of users that want to make payments and a network of miners. We are looking to utilize all of the network effect and share on-chain and off-chain databases. And that's where the binary chain basically sits. It sits at that junction. We have two chains, two potential for on-chain database, a multi-signature transaction that moves coins on both chains to confirm them, but that could be the details of that transaction could be settled in a shared database off chain prior to actually executing the multi-signature transaction or trade. So it basically it's an infrastructure system that can be set up with an SDK and APIs where applications can be built that mostly aren't on chain unless there's an aspect of it that needs to be. Obviously, you wouldn't even do an application like this if there wasn't an aspect that needs to be on chain. But you use the chain when you need the chain, and you don't use the chain when you don't need the chain. And the off chain database is a rolling database. All the nodes have it, but it's being deleted after a period of time. So it's just a rolling database. It doesn't get bigger. It just gets deleted. Sorry, it just gets deleted. Over time, so it has no scaling cost. It saves a bunch of data from going onto the chain, and it allows nodes of different types, whether you're staking, whether you're mining, you can do trades one for the other. You can negotiate some sort of agreement. You can do a scientific competition. This is kind of like the vision that I have for binary chain is striking that. Okay. Oh, this is what I was going to mention before, which I never did, which puts a good context in it, and then maybe we'll end it after this. Um, it's been a while, so maybe an extra 20 minutes if that's all right. No,
It's fine.
I mean, this will only take 2 minutes, is what I mean. Um, what I was going to say early on is with the scientific application thing. The problem is it's voluntary based, right? So people can donate their CPU time; they don't get anything for it. That's one downside. The other downside is there's no real way to to have people actually own some aspect of the solution, like whether it be the technology that's developed, the antiviral, or have a decentralized ownership capability. So if you're doing these folding at home things, if you're donating or SETI, you're donating computational time to try and find aliens, or you're donating computational time to try and fold proteins. There's some people who control a server that can potentially, say, well, these two tied, and we like this guy, so we're gonna give him the credit in the paper for this computational effort, and maybe acknowledge the other person or whatever. So we not only can have an incentive system for these types of competitions, but also a distribution of ownership of the technology potentially in a legal way, with keys of ownership and so on. So that's a good example where we can have programs that run efficiently, that do tasks, and then, so for instance, your computer's doing energy calculations to try and solve a binding of a virus protein, let's as an example. You don't want to do that on chain. It's going to be slow as hell. It's not going to work. But
Mhm.
you can run that off chain, and then when you find a solution, it automatically gets deposited on chain, and you have decentralized ownership of that technology, that drug, that you know therapy, whatever it is, whatever it ends up being. In this case, an antiviral technology. You have proven decentralized ownership of that technology. Um, so this is where the binary chain, in my mind, is.
Okay.
It enables real world applications that run efficiently locally, and then deposits information on chain automatically for proof when necessary. And then that payments, all the things that we're used to
Yeah.
with cryptocurrency, but all the things that we aren't as well.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, and that always like brings a whole new angle, or at least a whole new way of looking at things, where there's ton of opportunity.
Yeah, so I think there's like like there's basically a dichotomy. Ethereum says everything has to be on chain, for instance, right? And then and then Bitcoin is saying only the most important things has to be on chain, and then everything else has to be off chain, right? And we're saying whatever needs to be on chain can go on chain. Whatever doesn't need to be on chain doesn't need to be on chain. And we have an integrated system with tools, development tools that make this, trivial to implement. That's the idea of the binary chain. So we're not putting all the transactions off chain like Lightning, and we're also not saying everything has to be on chain because code is law or whatever. We're saying certain things need to be protected. Everything else needs to run fast, pretty much. And
Hmm.
let's make a system that can do both.
Okay. All right. There, there, there was one thing we probably need to touch on that we didn't.
But
Coin Vault
oh
One.
yeah, yeah. So I was going to say too. We had talked about mentioning this as a public service announcement, basically to the community. Coin Vault One, which is a web wallet that Fighton set up, was hacked. Fighton's still figuring out exactly what happened. I don't think he knows exactly the details yet. But what he does know is that a bunch of coins, Varium, I think, yeah, it was Varium, were moved out of his wallet. His wallet was unlocked, so it wasn't a fault of the wallet security. It was the security of his site was penetrated, and the wallet was open for sending transactions. This is pretty common. Exchanges also do this. It's not good, but it's practical when you want to run a centralized wallet to leave it unlocked. It's called a hot wallet. It's not a good security practice, but exchanges do it too. Otherwise, the exchange would have to go through more steps to release funds. Every time a user requests funds or whatever. Long story short is this is so one thing is this is why we don't have an official web wallet, because it's a centralized wallet and we're not in the business of controlling anyone's money, nor do we want to be.
Right.
We can't stop third parties like Fighton, who's a revered member of the community, does all kinds of stuff. We're not going to. We can't stop anyone from doing whatever they want with web wallets or whatever kind of technology. And he does have a disclaimer on his site about not putting too much coin, but sometimes people do put too much coin on
Yeah.
insecure centralized wallets. So this is kind of a public service announcement. Don't put a lot of coins on web wallets of any kind, especially ones where you don't have the private key, because then anyone who penetrates the server can potentially steal the coins
Yeah.
if the wallet's unlocked, which it often is. So Fighton's trying to figure out how to handle the situation. He has a disclaimer, but at the same time, it's complicated because people lost money. So they're talking through things and trying to figure out what can be done. Will has contacted Livecoin, which is basically the only place you can sell Varium, to find out if the coins ended up there and were sold. We still haven't heard back. I don't even know where Livecoin is based. You know, so who knows what's going on with that? But we're trying. People in the community are trying to get in contact with the exchange where Varium could have potentially been sold, to find out if it has been. And in some cases, they will stop sales of coins that are reported to have been stolen exchanges. So that's, if it hasn't already been sold, that's a possibility. And this is par for the course for a centralized wallet. to be honest.
Yeah, I think the key things on this are don't don't put like it should be pocket change that goes
Yeah.
onto a web wallet, if anything. And
It's
second,
like
the
a
other key
convenience
factor,
thing for pocket
yeah,
change, basically. Yeah.
yeah, and the other point though I think is what you mentioned. Someone made a comment like shut Coin Vault one. It's not anyone's decision. It's not Doug's decision or mine or anybody's decision to shut that down. That's third party. It's we have no one has any authority to say to shut it down. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with it. At this point, it's probably is going to be closed on Fighton's decision. I would expect, but the main thing is it's third party. That's not something that there isn't even an official Vericoin. Like there's not even a foundation that endorses that. So it's
Yeah, no, I
you
mean,
know
that was one thing that we never, we always refused to do and have any association, official association with is centralized wallets. I mean, in the very beginning, when we were implementing the very SMS stuff and a couple of the early things that you pretty much can't do it without a centralized system. We were trying out some centralized technologies, but decided that we can't really do any of that stuff because we don't want to be liable and it's too risky. If there's a lot of security you get from a locked wallet and being a needle in a haystack, a ton of security you get from that. Um, so that's your best bet is a strong password in a locked wallet, and you're a needle in a haystack. That's like the best.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the third party applications are going to be important for this whole project to thrive. And so it's going to be up to individual users to determine which third parties are worth trusting, which third parties are worth giving business to, et cetera. So, we want to see people doing things like that, but at the same time, you know, just being members of the community and wanting to see everyone, you know, be smart. Don't, you know, be careful with how much you do with third parties as well, because anything can happen, I guess. So anyway, all right. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Um,
All right.
yeah. So yeah, we'll continue the conversations on Slack, and well, let's if someone wants to write down some of the things I mentioned in the Trello board about the next tasks, and we can fill in some details. That would be great, and regarding development, and then uh,
Yeah,
let's
and
go. Let's go
and
from
reach out to Will at Will23, or you can contact me in different ways, and I can get you connected with him or whatever. I have access to that Trello board, but quite honestly, I don't. I have to log in myself, so you can reach out to me. I'll make sure if you want to contribute, add stuff to it. I'll make sure you get access to do so. So just let me know if you're listening to this and you want to help out. Just reach out, and we'll see what we can do. All right, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm on 2 hours of sleep, and I'm beat and tired. So, all right. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will. I'm gonna go through the comments and see what we can, how we can wrap everything up and summarize it. All right. Take care. Everyone have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.
see you.